Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Noona's Noonchi podcast, where I do a deep dive to some of your favorite K-dramas from a mental health perspective with a special guest. My guest today is Soompi writer, K-drama Soompi writer, Bina Lee, aka Binahearts. So excited to have you. Thanks, Bina.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I first heard of Binahearts. That's how I know her. So she's still Binahearts to me. Let's see. I know you've been a writer for a while, but maybe like 2 years ago, I started reading all your stuff, and you know how you look at the bottom. Who wrote this? Who wrote this? It's Binahearts.
Yeah.
And then I guess we connected through Clubhouse, social media. So Clubhouse is kind of. But so I'm excited to have you.
Thank you. I had no idea actually that you had read my, like, you knew who I was, or like knew me by my articles.
Of course.
I had no idea. You're just the first time you told me. So it's
I
cool.
didn't know that. No, yeah. I just of course I'm reading all the K-drama stuff, right? So for K-drama fans, we're gonna read, and Soompi, I'll be honest, to me is like my go-to. It's actually on my phone, bookmarked. I think it's like a really legitimate, credible source. And I would basically read, I mean, I knew there was other K-drama writers, but yours would always come up because it's nice to get the reviews, right? And then you would go into it and I would relate, even though we're arguing Vincenzo right now. We'll talk about that in a second. But I want to kick off with, how did you become a K-drama writer? Tell us about that.
Okay, it's nothing like really spectacular. Like I grew up in a Korean home, right? My family immigrated to Canada, and I was born here. But my mom was always a K-drama watcher, and like I thought that was normal. But I find that, like, I don't know, some of my friends have said that they never grew up watching Korean dramas. So like that, I remember you telling me that too. But for me, it was just such a normal thing. And maybe that's where I got my like K-drama love from, maybe my mom, because she always used to like play, you know, those long 50, 100 episode dramas. And like I remember I'd like get sucked into certain like clips and stuff. And like I just grew up watching so many of them. And it's always been a part of my like entertainment life, I guess, you know, even when I went to like high school and university, it would be my way of like unwinding and de-stressing and stuff. So like, yeah, I never knew it was like not a normal thing in a Korean household, but like in our house, it was very, 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 very prevalent. And so then I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do with my life, you know, like after university, and, you know, trying to use my English degree for something. So I, actually a friend of mine had sent me a link for this like thing, because she knew like I was like watching a lot of dramas at that particular time, because like I was trying to find a job, right? I had nothing else to do. So she was like, hey, how about like you apply for this? And I was like, okay, you know what, it's pretty cool. And at that time I had just watched Descendants of the Sun. And I was a huge fan of Seongjuki before it, but like that kind of like made me like more passionate about wanting to write about it. So that's why I was like, okay, like I'll apply for it. And like one of the requirements is you have to write like a mock article. So my mock article was about Seongjuki and like why I loved him, basically. I could still write about it. But yeah, it was like, and then like not even a month later, they emailed me back and was like, yeah, hey, like you want to start writing? I was like, okay. It was just very like easy. And I've worked with some like really great editors, and they like are very open to my ideas, thankfully. And I guess now I'm considered probably the oldest features writer. So like, I guess I'm like the sambe of the writers. So they're always like, yeah, you're like a better, like you're old school. And so there's like a lot of new ones coming up, like writers and stuff. But yeah, I guess I'm the oldest one there. And it's just like kind of like a side hobby, right? That I happen to also get like paid a little bit for. But it's like, yeah, you're writing about K-dramas, like it's pretty cool, right? So sorry, that was like long-winded.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And obviously we're talking K-dramas here. So I think that's cool. I know. So you are a Seongjuki fan, so maybe we'll get into Vincenzo. No, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm talking from a mental health perspective, but that's super cool that your identity growing up was not wrapped up in K-dramas, but super cool that you watched them with your family, or specifically your mom. So then growing up, can you share a little bit about whether, did you like them? I don't know. I mean, or did you relate to them? What was it like for you culturally?
I think it was my way, like for me, Korean food and Korean dramas was my link to my culture, because I know that a lot of kyopos, like, so like, you know, Korean immigrated. I don't know the exact definition for it, but anyways, like I wasn't born in Korea. So the only thing I really had for my connection to Korea was my parents, my family, my grandmother and my parents, and like Korean food and Korean dramas and pop culture. So like I grew up loving the first generation K-pop groups, right? Like very, very old school, like Seo, I think Jimmy, you might know Seo, Juice, HOT.
Yeah, HOT.
So I was really young when Seo like broke through with the K-pop, right? But I was a huge fan of like HOT, Techskis, TOD, like those first generation K-pop groups. So like I just grew up loving it. And my mom would like, my aunt would send magazines, and so like it was just a part of like my mom I think did a good job of integrating the culture into our house. And so I grew up actually very like fluent in Korean because of Korean dramas and K-pop and Korean music. And my mom used to listen to like all the older people Korean music back then, like it was Kayo, right? Like yeah,
wow,
like
that's so funny. That's before my time.
like yeah, but like people like older people. So I would sing along with it and stuff. So like honestly, like it was my mom mainly that kept that link and that identity, I guess, connection with me. So like for me, I feel very connected to my Korean culture, even though I never grew up there. You know what I mean?
Cool. And I can tell that from you. So then let's talk about some of the K dramas. Obviously, even growing up, you didn't get affected by seeing some of the image. I mean, everyone's beautiful and pretty. I mean, you know, you love, that's what I love about watching it. Let's be honest. But I'm wondering, as a student or in middle school during adolescence, you didn't feel that struggle? I guess I'm curious.
Well, okay, so I live in Toronto, and in Toronto there's actually a pretty big Korean population. So believe it or not, in my high school, it was majority like white people and Koreans. So that was it. Those were the two. So it's pretty crazy. Wow. Now it's not like that, but even in our area, we had Korean restaurants and bubble tea and like Korean like PC방, like what is it, computer rooms and stuff. Like it was like Korean stuff in the neighborhood. Yeah, and so our school like did have like a big Korean presence. So I grew up like in high school and elementary surrounded by a lot of Korean people or like people who immigrated from Korea. So they're like, you know, K-beauty stuff and like pictures, like they'd always have these like really magazines and pictures of these like on these, right, these like superstars. And like I remember like I always wanted the like Kimi-san was really big back then. She had really straight hair and it was like red highlights. And that was huge when I was like in middle school. And I remember like, oh my gosh, like I really wish I had that kind of straight, pin straight hair. Like and like the fashion, like back then, I don't know if you knew, but the hip hop like kind of style was really big back then. And so I remember wanting to like dress like that. But it's so weird because I'm like in Canada, in Toronto, and like they used to wear flares or like bell bottoms, you know what I mean? But in Korea it was like baggy hip hop pants, but I would want to dress like that.
Wow, so you really were, it's like almost like you lived in Korea, but you had the American Canadian, obviously Canadian.
Yeah, like I think I'm very Canadian, like in terms of my thinking and like, you know, but it is very weird because I do still feel a very strong connection with the Korean culture. And it is very true, like the whole appearance influence, it's ingrained, I think, in our culture, like wanting to look a certain way or wanting to look like presentable all the time, which is not realistic, but it's part of their culture.
It's true.
So like, you know, that's why like, you know, K-beauty is a big thing and Korean fashion is a big thing. But yeah, like I think if you're really into that culture, it's kind of natural that becomes kind of an influence. You know what I mean?
Sure, right.
You see all these like pretty beautiful like women and men, and you're like, oh, I want to wear what they're wearing, or I want to do my hair like hers, right? It's kind of like,
right, they don't know any better. That's how they dress. I mean, clearly I stick out when I visit there because we're wearing shorts and t-shirts, right? In the summer. And they're like, America, you're cute. I'm like, yes.
Or like, oh, your eyebrows are a certain way. Okay, you're not from here.
Right. Like, I know.
Yeah. Like, no, oh, you're contouring a bit too much. Yeah.
Right. Like, and you know, I'll be honest, they also thought, because I visit in the summer a lot, I was too tan. And I don't purposely tan. You know, when you put on sun, when I'm active outdoors, I do not cover always with the hat. They're like, oh, no, And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like I'm too dark, but again, because they have beautifully pale skin. But no, that's
Very weird though, eh? Isn't that's the big one actually, the tanning thing? Because I used to love tanning.
me too. Because
Yeah.
American, Canadian, you know, that's the thing to
Mm.
do. Now I'm older, I'm like, no more sun. I mean, I
No,
try.
I feel the exact same way. So like I've been a stay-at-home mom for 2 years now. So like I don't go out, right? That much. So like I've lost my tan, but like I do want to like still get a healthy glow. But
Yeah,
yeah, they want like white, pale, 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 translucent, right? Like it has to be
I would not fit in.
no
Yeah, right.
sun.
Very
Yeah, yeah.
translucent, and to the point that
Hmm.
I'm probably pale now because the summer just starting. But even to
Exactly,
my
yeah.
mom or grandparents, they're always like, "You're too dark," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I'm a child." But no, so
I
you're
know.
good point. I love hearing your background. I think it's pretty unique in the sense of really enjoying being in, like K dramas natural. K-pop was naturally part of
Hmm.
your upbringing, and it wasn't
Hmm.
something you just got into. It sounds like your mom really influenced that, which is super cool. I admire that.
Hmm.
So that said, what was the first K drama then you ever watched?
Okay, so I think we've talked about this briefly, like in passing. Like I remember seeing bits of a lot of historical dramas. Okay, so like my mom was really big into that, and I remember the historical ones, but I think the ones that I really remember, I don't know which ones came first, but like there was a drama called Puropose, so that's like propose in English, right? Kim Yi-san was in it, Rushi-won was in it, and that was One Bean's first K-drama appearance.
I do
I
remember
don't know if
that.
you
What year
remember
was
that.
that?
I haven't, you know what? I could probably look it up on my phone, but like it was huge back then because back then Kimi-san was huge
Mm.
and Rushi-won was huge.
She one
Do
was
you
huge,
remember?
and yes, I do. I
Yeah.
did see Proposed. You just bringing me back down memory lane, but I
Uh-huh.
thought Jutu was my first one. But remember, maybe it was Proposed.
Purpose, I think, okay, 97.
Oh, never mind. Okay, so my first
Um,
one was Jutu.
I think Chutu was older. Yeah, Chutu was older. See, I don't really remember Chutu, but I have like some people I know that that was their first. They remember it.
So
I
good.
don't really remember it. Yeah, but Purpose was also big. I remember because One Bean made an appearance in that drama with
Uh-huh.
holding a dog. He had like this long like fangs, and he had a
Okay.
golden retriever, and he was like the boy next door.
Oh,
And Korea, even back then, went nuts for him. They were like, "Who is that guy with the dog?" And then now he's like, he's still a huge star, right?
oh, he's still a huge star. Yeah, and I just saw him
Yeah.
recently in a movie, but yeah, he's yeah.
Hmm.
Well, whatever happened to Lucian then? Where's he? You just reminded me.
Well, okay, so he got into some like scandals. Like he kind of went down a bit after, right, in fame, but
Okay.
he also like had like kind of a domestic abuse
Oh,
kind of
okay.
situation. So yeah,
I love how you
he
know
kind of
stuff,
went
the Soonpi
undercover.
insider info. But no, thanks for bringing, okay, memory lane. And then, so then that was your first one. And then I guess I want to talk a little bit about when you're watching them. Tell me the process, by the way, when you pitch to your writers, like as a writer, I guess I want to know the inside of K dramas as much you can, as much as you can share
Mhm.
being a K drama writer. Do you have to watch all the dramas and every episode to review them? What is, I'm just wondering.
Like I do watch a lot of them for so like for my job, right? So like people are like, oh, why do you watch like so like all of them, or like I have to like give them a chance
Right.
unless I really have no interest, right? Because there's only so many I can watch. But I did have like I do randomly get questions like, oh, how many hours do you watch today? And so I feel like people like think that I'm like sitting there watching these dramas for like 6, 7 hours. But I'm a stay-at-home mom. Okay, I watch my
Busy.
toddler from 7:30 a.m. until like 7:30 p.m. Right? Like, and it's like busy, right? Like right now I have 30 minutes because my she's taking a nap, right? But yeah, like but I usually keep it on in the background while I'm working, like writing. Do you know
Mm,
what I mean? Like I have two
right.
screens, so like I watch it, but I do watch the ones that I want to watch. And
Yes.
then if there's a drama that I'm really interested in, I'll present it to Soompi and I'll ask them like, oh hey, um also there has to be like it has to be airing on Viki, most of them. So
Oh,
if I want to
okay,
do
because they have
if I
yeah.
want to do weekly reviews, then
Mm,
they have to be airing on Viki. I can do reviews of the first two episodes, but those ones will only be the first two episodes if they're not on Viki.
gotcha.
Um, so,
Right.
but if they're on Viki, then I can do them like every week. So I'll present the idea, and if they want me to, then they'll say, okay, go ahead, you can do weekly reviews for them. So it obviously has to be a drama that I really like, right?
Mm,
Because I have to watch it live, like I have to watch it, and then I have to write it like a review, and then give it to them right away. But I do try to watch as much as I can because also and you know this, like I sometimes do like very big features where it's like, oh, 10 best actors or
Right.
like 10 and that has a huge influence, and I recognize that. So like, you know, I can't make everyone happy, but I try to be very objective, right? So like, I'm not gonna put my favorite actors because I love them into a list just because I love them, right?
Right.
I'm gonna try to go with like, you know, what's trending, what's popular, what a lot of people want, and like, you know, maybe somebody who deserves a little more recognition, things like that, right? But yeah, there's been some articles where I've been like, okay, you know what, I missed somebody, I admit, right? Like, fine.
Yeah, you
But
can't,
like,
I mean, you can't be responsible for every, that's why I'm like thinking when you review the K-dramas, how much of it do you have to watch fully? I know you watch most of them, but have you ever?
I watch them fully. Yeah, I do. I watch them fully. So if I'm writing about it, I will watch it fully.
Okay, that's good to know.
And if I'm recommending it, I will have watched it. Like, I'll never write about a drama if I haven't even given it a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, then we'd be like, Bina, this is actually a good drama.
Exactly.
You said it sucked. No.
Yeah. Like I watched all of The King and I hated that drama.
Yeah. I know. I was
yeah.
neutral just because I just like, no, you're right. The story was kind of stupid. But anyways, but we all have different tastes. But that said,
yes.
So that's super cool. So then what, do you have a favorite?
You know what? I was like thinking, like, is Tina gonna ask me this? Like, I should be prepared, but I'm not. But okay, so the one that I always say, because this is the safest for me in terms of like over the years, it's always been that one drama where I can always revisit and I'll like love it still, is Secret Garden. And I think I actually told you this, right?
Yes, you did. You did. That's interesting. That's an older one. Well, not that. Oh yeah, 2009. Yeah.
Something like that. It's like mid to late 2000.
Yeah, maybe it's 2011 actually. No, that's a good drama. I don't disagree with you there, but you actually revisit it.
I revisit it all the time. Yeah, it's like, it's my like whenever I feel like I can always watch it actually. Like I can always turn an episode and I'll like want to watch it. Because at the time, like it reminds me of the time when I watched it and I was like, you know, like I loved it when I watched it. And I think I'm revisiting that feeling. And it's just, if you watch a drama and you're not in a good place, I don't think you'll want to revisit it. Do you know what I mean? Or if you revisit it again later, you might like it again, or you might like it, but you didn't like it before, right?
That's interesting. You're talking about mental health there.
That does have to do with mental health. But yeah, like I remember like being excited to watch it at the time, like every week. So this kind of reminds me of like good things, I guess. But I have like a bunch on my top 10, but like other ones were like Goblin. I know people are like Goblin, but Goblin I liked, and Prison Playbook. Hospital Playlist. That's the same writer as one of your favorites. One of your favorites, Reply 1988. Right? Yeah, so she wrote also Prison Playbook and Hospital Playlist.
I didn't know that. That's so funny. That's one thing I'm not good at, knowing who the writers are, except for the one who wrote Descendants of the Sun, Goblin. I just know which I think
most people don't really know, but like I think I don't actually know a lot of them, but I know the Reply series woman because everyone she writes is good. Like she wrote all Reply series, Hospital Playlist, Prison Playbook. So like they're all really good.
Those are really good. Okay.
So yeah, a lot of her stuff is in my top as well. Also Weightlifting Fairy.
Oh right. Yes. Well, that's the only one I like. Nam Joo-hyun. Okay, so hopefully nobody like blasts me on there because he has a huge fan base. But you know what? It's actually, he can redeem himself. If he has another good drama coming up, I'll watch it. Startup was just where I was just like, and that's actually, I remember when I was seeking you, when I was reading Soompi, you always look for all the K-drama reviews, and there's other articles obviously written by other writers, but when I would see yours, I think I recall a couple of the startup ones you did, and I'd be like, okay, good. Yes, you put in 100 PM. I just remember going, I approve. No, I'm kidding. Have you ever gotten, you've mentioned this, but I'll like you to share this.
Yeah.
What's it like getting feedback from people?
Okay. Well, the feedback is not always good. And it's usually good. It's usually good. People are like, okay, I agree, but okay. And then they say like, okay, you should have added this person, or you shouldn't have added that person. And speaking of Namjoon was like one of the ones, and also Startup was one of the dramas, right, that I put in for my like it wasn't even like best dramas of 2020 was like, oh, just a must watch. Like you should watch
Let's
it.
watch. It was like
Yeah,
a
come
trending
on.
K-drama.
Yeah, you
come
gotta
on.
watch Hanji Pyong, right? You gotta
Right.
watch,
And even
right?
Noonchi and Suzy. I mean, they're all popular.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I don't have anything against like Namjoon and Suzy, so like I watched it all, but yeah, there are like some people who get very aggressive with their opinions, and it's like, okay, like you know, you missed this person, like, you know, do you even know, like blah blah blah, and like sometimes I'll reply back. Most of the time I'll try not to, but sometimes it's like people are just so rude,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And they can be like very like confrontational, and you know, I just want to be like, you know what, you can always apply for a job. You know, like if
You
you
ever
know
say
so
that?
much
Why don't
about it.
you write the review? Just kidding. But
No, I know, but like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm just one person here, just putting my opinion, you know, like,
Mhm.
you know, there's only so many K-dramas and so many actors. Like I wish I could do like 50 best actors, but like, you know, this is 10, right? But yeah, sometimes it does like, you know, get to me a bit, but at the same time, like I get over it pretty quickly because like I'm on to the next article and somebody else is complaining with that one, right? So like it's like a pretty like it's pretty fast paced because I'm dishing out like one or two a week, right? So
So you have one or two articles a week. Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
usually
Yeah,
like I
that makes the name come up.
that's not what like Snoopy asked me, but like I usually that's how much like I produce.
Hmm.
So I
Okay.
try to do at least once a week.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's
Mm-hmm.
super cool. So you still like the job?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I do. I do like it. It does, like, I think right now, since this pandemic, I've been writing a lot more, okay, and obviously watching a lot more.
Me too.
And it's obviously because like I can't do anything else, right? I probably wouldn't be able to write or watch as much if pandemic wasn't going on. So I guess it's kind of a blessing in disguise, right? Because I can do this, but I do still enjoy it. But with this pandemic, I feel like people are getting a lot more into K-dramas, right? Like, and they're a lot more hardcore fans and I'm getting a lot more messages and a lot more comments, which is okay. Because I know with the whole like 2020 wave of K-drama, you know, like with Crash Landing, Itaewon Class,
Right.
It's
Oh,
Okay to Not Be Okay. Like those ones have
popular.
brought in a lot of new K-drama fans. So, and you know, so they've become a lot more opinionated about certain things, but like, you know, that comes with the territory, so it's okay. Like, you know, they're loving Korean dramas,
That's
right?
right.
Like
Yeah, that's at the end of
I'm
the day,
proud
right?
of that.
Super cool. So
Yeah, like that's
that's
part of my culture. So
right.
yeah.
Exactly. I was going to say,
Mm-hmm.
what is something you want to share from your perspective, not just as a writer, but just from K-drama perspective? What
Mm-hmm.
makes it so appealing to not obviously Koreans, but a global audience? What is it about K-dramas that have really taken this world by a storm?
Um, it's the exact reason why I love K dramas. Like the reason why, like if I had to compare it, I like, you know, I don't want to put one down, but like if I had to compare to like American dramas, American like shows tend to be like so long and they tend to be like more than just like one season, right? And they tend to be like really there's so many characters and so much development and anything happen. And then there's like several seasons that you have to wait like a year for, right? Which is like awful. With Korean dramas though, it's pretty like um 16 episodes is standard,
Yeah.
right? 16 episodes, 1 hour ish over, or maybe a little bit more episodes. It's like it has a formula, right? There's like usually a love story and there's tropes that you've become accustomed to, so you kind of know what to expect. I just think it makes your watching a bit more enjoyable, and then you have all these actors who are acting in dramas regularly, like the same actors,
Right.
right? So
Very
there's like you
familiar.
get to see them over and over and over again, like you know Kim Sono, you know, with the startup, and
Right.
like not even a year later he's going to be in another drama, right? And a whole
True.
new
Right.
character, a whole new story. So it's like always fresh characters, like you're familiar with the stories, and like I just yeah, like the predictability of it, and the fact
Mhm.
that you can watch it in like a weekend, like a whole series if you wanted to, and there's so many of them, right?
That's true.
And they're so accessible now with Netflix, and you know, like people, anybody can watch it. It's like it's in your face. Before it wasn't as much, right?
Right.
Um,
Definitely
but
mainstream.
yeah, there's just yeah, and people like you know love the love story, right? Like and Korean dramas are all about love.
It is.
Not all of them, but like you know, people love that good
Right.
feeling of
And I like you
butterflies.
mentioned tropes. So that said, then what's your take? And this is a loaded last question, but
Mm-hmm.
I talking about mental health. and K-dramas. So
Mhm.
what would you say, in your opinion, is the connection between K-dramas and its impact on one's mental health, both good and bad? Because obviously there's realisticness of sometimes it can affect you in a certain way, like you said, when you're not in a good
Mhm.
place. It was
Mhm.
hard to watch. I know some people in that, but for you, how would you explain that connection between K-dramas and somebody's mental health?
Um, well, yeah. So like you said, in terms of the negative first, like the K-dramas, there's a lot of aspects of it that can be very triggering. And in terms of in the Korean culture, there's like certain parts about mental health and certain traumatic experiences that they're not as sensitive to, I think, in terms of like, North American is very like right now they're trigger like very, trigger warning, like, all that stuff. So Korea's not really into that space yet. So like there are a lot of traumatic like events and specific scenes that might be very like not good for people's like mental health, and also a lot of issues about bullying and
Mhm.
physical appearances and things like that. Like it's just very prevalent in Korea and very real, which is also very real in North America. But like things like that can be kind of like a downer, and maybe some people will feel kind of turned off by it. But on the other hand, there's also like, okay, the healing dramas and the coming out of that by the end of the story. And like, most Korean dramas tend to always have loose ends, and they always like have kind of, most of the time, like everyone's pretty happy, except the second lead, right? But like but to a certain extent, they still like, it's like, okay, they're still okay, right? And they tap loose ends, which is like the happily ever after ending, usually like K-dramas do. So like I think that is healing in a way, indirectly, when you're seeing that, like, oh, she came out of she, was poor and she was unhappy and she was bullied, and but she found like this like rich CEO guy, and they're riding off into the sunset. They're like happy, right? So it's like indirect healing and happiness, kind of, right? That will make anyone happy, I think. Stress relief.
I love that. No, that's perfect. That's exactly what that I would answer. We're down to the last minute. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you go. We'll have to talk about Vincenzo in another episode where you're going to join me, and we'll break down why Bina Hearts does not like Vincenzo. And I'm desperately trying to convince her because she likes Song Joong-ki better than me. I mean, I like
Oh
him
my gosh,
now,
Noonchi is my favorite of all time. Yeah.
and he's acting well.
Yeah.
He's getting nominated by the Pexong Awards. Hello.
I
And it's
know,
not
I
working.
know.
You're
I
still,
do not, I do not deny his acting ability. He's
yeah,
such a good
yeah.
actor. But like, just yeah, the story. Okay, well, we'll talk about that
Okay,
next
we'll
time.
talk later, but thanks folks for listening. This is Bina Lee,
No
Bina Hearts
problem.
on Soompi. Thanks for joining us and watching Noona's
Thank
Noonchi
you,
episode.
Jeannie.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Noona's Noonchi podcast. You can listen in on platforms such as Spotify, Pandora, Google, and Apple, but also watch the podcast on our Noona's Noonchi YouTube channel every Monday, where it launches at 6 p.m. Eastern.